One of my most famous guests on the show is a guy named Dan Peña. He's known as the $1 trillion man. And 10 years ago, he came on my show. And, I didn't even want him on my show because I had run away from the city and making money. And I thought that was kind of bad. And I was off doing my independent media thing. And here was a dude with a castle in Scotland, who had a book called Your First 100 Million. And he was a high performance coach. And he came on the show and I was just like, who is this guy? And I was kind of making fun of him. I'm like, you're like a James Bond villain. And he was pushing me a little bit. And we ended up starting this 10-year relationship. And what's really fascinating, Connor, is that it's one of my most requested and talked about guests. And when people stop me in the streets, I'm always surprised because they want to talk about Dan Peña. And this is where it gets really weirdly meta, Connor, because I think, and look, my audience started off 90% men. Now it's probably 70% men. We still have a lot of amazing females that watch the show and in my community, actually. And there's probably all sorts of reasons for that as well. But they all want to know about Dan Peña because our relationship is one that's honestly biblical. And again, back to what Peterson talks about, it really is the prodigal son. It really is the son and the father. And, I went up to his castle and I was even joking. I feel like Colonel Kurtz. I felt like, in the movie Apocalypse Now, where Charlie Sheen is going up there and he's in awe of this man, but he also has to kill this man. And I used to joke, that's what I'm doing with Peña. And it's like, I'm trying to resolve all these father issues. And he's pushing me, trying to mentor me, and I'm pushing back. And a lot of people don't see what happens behind the scenes when I'm writing him these 4-page long emails, telling him how to fuck off and telling him that he doesn't know what the hell he's doing and blah, blah, blah. And I'm pushing back. And I'm in my 40s now still doing that. But it's interesting because that's one of the most watched guests. And I think, Connor, is because it's a demonstration of a lot of unresolved issues people have with their fathers. And when they look at me and Peña, they see that. Maybe even people with unresolved relationships with their sons. And they see our relationship and they're like, oh, wow, I see him pushing you and I see you pushing back, but I see you changing. And he is, he's a crazy archetype. I mean, he cusses like a sailor and he's to the max. And so he probably pushes everybody's buttons in there. Anyways, that's a lot to download, but I'm curious what you see in there.
Yeah, I mean, I have this saying that really good men's work is a result of us exploring and working on the wounds in our masculine core or our masculine heart. And it's amazing how powerful that can be. And I think what I'm really getting and sort of extracting from this conversation, like if we were, if you were sitting on my couch or if we were having an actual session is how powerful the role of the dynamic between you and your father has been. And that in some ways, as you've grappled with that, it sent you on a trajectory that has been incredibly powerful and unfolded your life in a way that you could probably not have imagined before. Much like myself, a lot of the reason why I am who I am today and why I'm successful in the way that I'm successful today is because I decided to grapple with and tackle the pain within. I mean, I call it my masculine core, my masculine heart, but I decided to grapple with the challenges that were there between me and my father and my stepfather, who I did not get along with, and I tried to push out in every way, shape, or form. And we had a very animosity-filled relationship for a long, long time. But that's what we as men do. We grapple with one another. And when we stop doing that, we lose an edge and a potency within ourselves that diminishes our ability to see what our purpose and our function and our mission is in life. But when we begin to push a little bit on that edge and we move towards the men, and it's like, oh, that guy has something to teach me. And I can be humble enough to say that man, regardless of, his ethnicity or his age or his background or his experience, he has something that I need to learn from, and we can listen to our gut and our core. It'll push us in a direction that we can't possibly imagine. It's like Peterson says, tell the truth and it'll be one of the greatest adventures of your life. I think that I agree with that 100%. I think that when we move towards the things that have wounded us as men, that can bring us on one of the greatest adventures of our life as well. And because it puts us into contact with confrontation. And we as men do not change unless there's some form of confrontation. And we're living in a society and a culture that is constantly telling men, move away from confrontation, right? We have a whole generation raised by what I call pillow parents, where like anytime there's a risk or a challenge, the parents just throwing the soft pillow underneath, like, don't worry about it. You don't have to do it. You know, it's, you gave it your effort and da, da, da. And so we have a culture of moving away from confrontation, moving away from things that are hard, when as men, those are oftentimes the things that we need to learn how to do, how to be with, how to grapple with in order to develop our character. So I think that's what I really hear, is that you've gone on this journey of discovering who you are as a man by directly and maybe indirectly dealing with some of the pains that you experienced growing up and trying to sift through that and make sense of it. And maybe it didn't occur like that at first, but my story is very similar to yours. You know, drugs, drinking, womanizing, street racing, bar fights. I mean, just a ton of I don't know if I want to say aggression, but just like I was hurting and in pain and trying to figure out who I was. And I think that's the state of a lot of men today.
How do you get out of a rat race? How do you create wealth not only for yourself, but also for the generations to come after?
I am absolutely amazed with the quality of companies that we're getting exposure to.
We go on to Zoom calls with the innovators and the folks who are building new applications in metaverse, blockchain, artificial intelligence, decentralized finance.
What's going on, everybody? Thumbs up if you can see me.
We are focusing on early stage investment.
And the quality of people that we're getting exposure to, whether it be Dan Tapiero with 1RT, Jason Ma from Open, Yatsu from Animoca.
It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. It has far exceeded my expectations.
We are focusing on cutting edge technologies.
I view it now as the best investment I've ever made. The upside I view is unlimited.
And as a retail investor, I would never get this exposure anywhere else outside of Investment Club.
See you in the Investment Club.